You ever wonder what would happen if your worst nightmare in suburbia, one of those clipboard queens, actually got control of your entire neighborhood, yeah? That happened to us, and let me tell you, if you think your HOA is strict, you haven't met Karen Whitmore. I swear she rolled into our lives with a plastic smile, campaign flyers with dogs in sunglasses, promising community cohesion, whatever that means. But all it really meant was, I'm about to make your life hell, one fine at a time. It started with her passive-aggressive notes like a neon post-it on my trash can that said your lid was not fully closed. Please respect sanitation aesthetics. At first, I thought maybe she just wants to help, right? Next thing you know, I get slapped with a $25 fine for my kid's garden gnome. Then another for a bat magnet on my mailbox. Then the fines started coming in hot like daily. $1.50 for insufficient grass density. $70 because my dog barked too loud for too long, didn't even know that was a thing. She'd quote community harmony standards like she was the high priestess of suburbia, and every week there'd be some new infraction that somehow only she understood. My neighbor Mrs. Diaz, a sweet lady pushing 80, got fined for her teal car being non-neutral. Then there was Jake across the street who got written up because his Halloween skeleton's arm was angled aggressively. I kid you not. Soon everyone's door had an envelope taped to it. Karen's signature move handwritten. Warnings like, "We, Garpa, are always watching." It got so out of hand we started joking about her having a drone until, get this, someone actually spotted her flying one over our backyards. At meetings, she'd silence anyone who tried to push back quoting rules no one's ever heard of with that smug little "I interpret the rule book for a reason" grin. And don't even think about emailing her unless you addressed her as Madame President. She had this mailbox at the HOA office with her name on letterhead, like she was running for governor of Lawnville. It was both hilarious and terrifying. So 1 week after racking up $275 in fines for things like grass clippings on the sidewalk and leaving my porch light on past community bedtime, I mean, come on, I'd finally had enough. I started thinking, if she wants every cent, she's gonna get it. In pennies. You know what I mean? I looked it up. No rules on how. You pay, just that you do. And yes, pennies are legal tender. So I added up every fine over $1,000, nearly 20,000 pennies, and reached out to my neighbors. Turns out I wasn't the only one fed up. Greg, a retired engineer, was fined for unauthorized yard gatherings. Rachel, our local bank manager, for emotionally charged wind chimes. Even Tommy, who's basically the prankster of our street, got fined for an offensive flamingo ornament. That's when Operation Copper Storm was born. Greg built pallets and ramps. Rachel hooked us up with bulk coins at the bank, and Tommy designed stickers for every box paid in full. We spent 2 weeks stockpiling coins, and when the big day came, we loaded up a flatbed truck, real Ocean's 11 stuff. Each box weighed over 100 pounds. Some neighbors followed in their cars, filming while one guy even flew a drone to record the moment. The plan was to deliver every last penny, all at once, right to the HOA office. No drama, just community harmony, in its purest, pettiest form. So picture this. Karen standing outside Power Blazer. HOA pin, sipping her. I run this neighborhood mug, probably expecting us to grovel. Then, Greg hops out aviators on clipboard in hand and says, "Delivery for Madam President." Curbside or office side. Her jaw literally dropped like you could practically hear the Windows 95 error sound. We started unloading the boxes, each labeled for the specific violation, the crowd growing, people clapping, even the news van pulling up for a story. Karen tried to stop us, calling it disruption, but Greg coolly reminded her we were following the bylaws. Deliveries allowed from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. walkway, ADA compliant and everything. It was like a small-town parade, except the floats were boxes of pennies and righteous rebellion. Now you'd think that would be the end of it. But nope. Karen wasn't about to let us win. 48 hours later, new emergency compliance flyers were taped up, and suddenly she had this compliance task force marching door to door with clipboards and tape measures. Fines went nuclear. Rachel got 8 in a day. Greg was cited for disharmonious barbecue activity, and I got dinged for failure to restore order after currency dispersal. She even launched a digital portal that tracked violations, locked out comments, and auto-escalated fines. At this point, the neighborhood felt less like a community and more like a weird HOA boot camp. And Karen strutted around in a high-vis vest compliance inspector in bold letters, acting like she was the sheriff in a town of lawn criminals. But here's the twist. Rachel, who'd been quietly putting up with Karen's madness, was actually a former paralegal. One night, she dug into the HOA bylaws and public records and discovered Karen had used a rental property as her residency to run for president, which was a straight-up violation. With her legal know-how, she built a case, gathered all the documents, and called an emergency homeowners meeting. Everyone showed up, some angry, some just desperate for things to go back to normal. Rachel presented the proof rental agreement's property records, even emails, where Karen forwarded mail to her real address 15 miles away. Karen tried to bluff to grandstand, but the whole room turned. Someone in the back yelled, "Vote her out," and that's exactly what we did right then and there. 43-0. Even her yoga buddy abstained. Karen stood there, red-faced, clutching her mug, trying to save face. But it was over. Our penny-fueled rebellion had toppled her little regime. Of course, she didn't go quietly, filed lawsuits against half the block, claiming currency-based harassment and disruption of suburban sanctity. But Anita, our new board's attorney, fired back with evidence of misuse of HOA funds, fraudulent filings, and hilariously invoices for her custom president for life, sweatshirts and drone accessories, all paid with HOA money. The judge took one look and tossed her case with a warning not to waste the court's time. After that, the neighborhood changed overnight. The new board, Rachel at the helm, refunded every bogus fine, held a bonfire, where we tossed old violation slips and Marcia-era rulebooks into the flames and rewrote the bylaws so they actually made sense. The mailbox garden became Penny Plaza, decorated with flamingos and gnomes, and a plaque that says, "In community we trust." The best part, meetings went from drama fests to potlucks. People laughed again. Kids played without fear of getting written up for excessive joy. And nobody worried about their porch lights after 10 p.m. And yet Karen just couldn't resist. She popped up on the neighborhood Facebook group under a fake name, tried to show up at a cleanup with her old clipboard, and even filmed a TikTok rant about community standards. Rachel finally handed her a trespass notice, along with a tote bag of her burnt sweatshirt and a single penny taped to a note, "Refund for community chaos." Karen tripped over a pink flamingo on her way out. The moment went viral, 1 million views in 2 days, and the whole block cheered. That my friend's a suburban justice. But let me ask you, do you think we went too far? What would you have done ever had a neighbor or an HOA cross the line? Drop your wildest stories, or your thoughts on what community really means in the comments. Justice, pettiness, or just fighting back? Where's the line? Let's talk about it.